Today's show is the fourth in the series of dialogues with transformational leaders from the profession. I am delighted that we are joined today by architect and my fellow ACSA Distinguished Professor, Juan Miró. He is the principal of the award-winning firm Miró Rivera Architects in Austin, Texas. He is also a professor in the School of Architecture at the University of Texas at Austin.
In my case, the journey started in Barcelona. I was born in Barcelona, in Spain, and we moved to Madrid when I was very young. My father was an architect, and he started to have more and more work in Madrid, so moved the family. We're 7 brothers and sisters. I'm the 4th one, the last one that was born in Barcelona, and then we moved to Madrid. And that's where I grew up. I studied architecture in Madrid, and I finished very young. I was a year ahead in school. My father was interesting because when I told him that I wanted to study architecture, his reaction was, "Are you really sure?" You know, it was, "Are you really sure that you want to get into this?" So he was kind of trying to be realistic about the fact that it's a demanding career, and you need to be very certain that that's what you want to do. I met Charles Guathmy in my last semester at Yale. And Charles Guathmy asked me if I wanted to go to New York to work with him. So I didn't have to look for work, which was good because at the time there's virtually no work in New York. I ended up spending 6 years in New York. And then a project brought me to Austin. And then my wife and I just got married at that time, fell in love with Austin, started a practice there, started teaching there. Getting to Austin and teaching felt like all of a sudden a way to incorporate that into my life again. The notion of keeping this more intellectually stimulating world going in parallel to the practice. So I try to be more of an optimist in the sense that, yeah, you know, there are people around, you know, you that are not necessarily there with the good intentions, but, you know, my theory is that you can overcome all that just by focusing on getting what you do well and let things kind of fall in place in a way. And I think architects, probably in architecture school, we put too much pressure on, you know, you're supposed to be designing, you know, and in charge of these projects. And at the end of the day, architecture can be many things, and you can be working in very critical design decisions in other settings, you know, because a lot of the decisions about design happen outside architectural offices.
Right.
And that's very, very critical that we instill that in our students, that there are other ways that you can promote good design and good cities and good urban design that is not necessarily based on the heroic image of the architect as the genius designer. Connecting to an existing place, having a clarity of purpose, and connecting with the spirit of the times is at the end what makes some work stay above the rest of the work.
Right.
Being deliberate about it is not necessarily an easy thing, but I think that you do it by being very connected. That's why I think it's important to connect with where you are, the place, being intellectually curious, being very, which is different than trying to replicate things from the most trendy magazine, but you need to kind of, in a way, be aware of what's happening, but not force yourself to try to replicate. The world is such a fascinating place that sometimes we close our doors to so many, you know, fantastic, you know, opportunities for learning, for letting things come to us. And I think that there tends to be people tend to judge too quickly, you know, and this applies to when I talk to students about, I don't like that architect, and therefore they close the door from learning about what that architect is trying to do and why, rather than focusing on whether I like it or not, try to focus on why people do what they do.
Yeah.
And I think that in general, if you apply that to everything, you know, if you're, it's almost like a combination of be very focused about doing well what you do. You know, for example, when I'm teaching, I'm there. You know, I always say that students have said in their surveys a lot of nice things about what I do in class, but the one thing that I like the most is that they have never say, oh, he seems to be more interested in his practice, he's not focused here. You know, when you are doing something, just focus. It's the same thing when you're with your kids, when you're, you know, try to stay very focused and and be clearly connect with the students, you know. So when you're connecting with your client, you know, in practice it's the same thing. You need to show that you really care and you are listening, you know. And then you learn a lot from that. And then be very open about, you know, being open about the world, you know, makes you more tolerant, but at the same time reinforces what you believe in. And sometimes people feel like they threaten their belief system by opening themselves to other belief system. And I think that in essence, you know, we were able to have that ability to be very comfortable with yourself, but at the same time very open-minded about learning from other places and other ways of thinking. It will be a much richer exchange.
There is an unsaid assumption that seems to play, saying if you're not working on a project of this size, you know, it's not significant.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't believe that. I think that at the end of the day, and this happens to us many times when clients come, it's like, oh, this is a small project, I'm sure that you're not interested. We say, look, scale has nothing to do. We're not, we can be interested in any project, no matter the scale, if the right circumstances are. I mean, when people are looking for good design, it's just the most important aspect of why we're interested. We reject a lot of projects when we feel like there's no real desire to do anything, you know, well done.
I'd like to thank you for visiting Ball State University and sharing your thoughts about your life and work and interacting with our students and our academic community as a whole. And certainly want to thank you for your time. And,
absolutely, thank you.
It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I really enjoy it. Thank you.